Peace, everybody. How y'all doing? Just wanted to get this quick little video out there. I'm going to try and keep it as short as I can. But the topic of this video, we're going to go into the Matrix Reloaded, and we're going to talk a little bit about the situation that happened in Baltimore with the sister. So we're going to go ahead and get into that. Now, before I start, before I really go into speaking about Baltimore and what happened with this sister, Corinne Gaines, before I do anything, I just want to say to anybody who may, I want to say first and foremost, rest in peace to her. And, I hope that her family, her friends, and everybody who knew her, I hope that, I send them my condolences. So I just wanted to get that out the way first before I say anything. Now, I felt that it was necessary to tie these two topics together. And I hope that by the end of the video, y'all can understand why I did it. But before we get all into the movie and the whole content of this video, I want to say about her and about that situation. First off, I'm not going to judge her because, for one, nothing that she was really stating, everything that she really, as far as the video where we see her pulled over for the traffic violation, as far as with her license plates and all of that, I'm just going to say that I can't judge her, nor will I choose to judge her based off that one video where we don't know what led up to her responding this way, her reacting this way, because a lot of things are left out about this situation. We find out that she had an ongoing legal case against the police department from some situation where, she had a miscarriage. Now, I'm not sure about all the details, but what I will say is that I will not judge her based off of that, nor will I call her mentally ill, nor will I say that she was wrong, or I will not say any of that because, for one, I look at it as to understand that we all have a spiritual purpose. We all have a reason to why we walking on this earth. And sometimes our purposes are more so of a spiritual purpose. Sometimes we serve a purpose that's beyond anything that we can understand in this physical realm. And so what I mean by that is, that sister, she responded to that situation in whatever way that she felt like she had to respond for herself. Now, see, she had that right as a human being and as a mother. I don't know what she endured. Nobody know what she endured. I'm not going to judge her based off of who she was dating. I'm not going to judge her off of who she was dealing with. I understand that there are a lot of people in the conscious community who abuse their knowledge, who manipulate people, who mislead people, who misguide people. But I'm not going to single out the entire conscious community as that being the conscious community's fault. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to blame a certain group of people. I'm not going to do that. And I'm not going to say or insinuate that she deserved to die because she was dealing with people and paperwork. I don't agree with that. I don't agree with, oh, well, I'm not going to say that, because what people fail to realize is that we're not discussing if people are actually committing the crimes, if they're right or they're wrong. That's not the essence of what most people are talking about. It's about the value of the life. It's about understanding that we know we do stuff wrong. We know people need to go to jail or be rehabilitated for their wrongdoers. We completely understand it. Nobody's saying nothing wrong with that. What we are saying is that in the way that we are being handled, it's almost like there is any excuse to take our lives, and nobody wants to feel like they're a target. Okay? And when we look at this legal system and when we look at the way this system is, we clearly see, the abuse of the power, we clearly can see that a lot of police are uninformed, they're untrained, and they have certain connotations about certain group of people. Now, in 2016, we know this. This is not a secret, okay? But at the end of the day, when it comes to her, I'm not gonna do that. So I'm gonna go ahead though, and I'm gonna get on into this Matrix thing, and hopefully by the time I get done, you can understand why I'm putting the two and the two together. Why I'm connecting these dots. Mathematics deals with life, okay, like signs and numbers, patterns, relationships. This is all math. Okay, this is all math. Every law in nature is written by mathematics. So everything that shows up in your life is a formula of mathematics. It's not there by mistake. See, the architect in the Matrix, he called Neo an algorithm that he has yet to be able to figure out. That's what he called him, because math is the mirror of nature. Okay, always remember that math is the mirror of nature. It mirrors nature. If you understand math, you understand nature, whether you know it or not. That's why you learn math in elementary school. It's one of the first things you learn is your basic math in elementary school. Why is it called elementary school? You're learning about the elements. That's why it's called that. So when the Matrix first comes on, the very first thing we see is Fibonacci spiral. Like, we see that. So when we see that, that's already a hint. Like, okay, so we're looking at the structure of the universe. Remember, in the Matrix, we're dealing with the architect. Okay, now a lot of people find the whole thing with the architect to be a little bit confusing. So I'm gonna see if I can kind of try and clear some of that up. But the movie starts out with the Fibonacci spiral. Okay, so it's about creation, the concept behind creation. Okay, so in the very beginning, Neo has a vision of Trinity dying, right? So the sequel is about the workings of the universe. They teaching us that everything is like a machine. Nothing is going by mistake. It's all calculated. All right, so remember, we find out a whole lot more about Zion. So we spoke about Zion before in part 1, but we got to know, here's what you need to understand about Zion. Zion is considered a spiritual safe haven. It's like a heaven. It's the land of the spiritual homeland. It represents the spirit world. So in Kabbalah, Zion means place where reality becomes. You hear that? The place where reality becomes, right? So this sequel, right? So in this one, we see Zion for the first time, right? And so we see when they let Morpheus' ship in, which is called a Nebuchadnezzar. And when they're ushering him in, we see this all white room, and it looks like you can see blueprints. And they bring him in. So notice, within it's evident themes throughout all three of them. Okay, now this one we see a lot with blueprints. We see a lot with how things are made, why things are the way that they are. And it's not a coincidence in things being the way that they are. Okay, because see, that's a universal principle. Nothing is coincidence. It's all about synchronicity. If you understand energy, everything that you attract to yourself, you meant to attract to yourself for a reason. Now, in the movie, right, we saw one of the head councils, and we saw when he was speaking to Neo, and he took Neo to the engineering room, right? Now, they were talking, and the old counselor, he said to Neo that he said, well, I don't understand, or I don't know how the machines work, but I do understand the reason for them to work. We need machines, and machines need us. It's mutual. See, they can destroy the machines, but if they destroy the machines, what does that mean for them? See, we see a lot of machines that they are using. And in the same essence, if the machines kill the humans, well, what does that mean for them too? See, it's mutual. It's a mutual relationship. They need the both of them. They need each other. So what we really kind of see in this one is like, yo, everybody thinks Morpheus is crazy, right? Everybody think he's crazy, but he's the Moor. We always see the Moor as being crazy, right? Right? We see that, right? Now, see, let's go back to Baltimore. We see that they really trying to make this sister seem mentally ill, right? But we all know that there's a thin line between genius and insanity. And if I can blur that line, and if I can manipulate your perception, I can easily make you think someone who is very highly intelligent and speaking above the frequency of a lot of individuals, I can make it appear that that person is crazy. That's very, very easy to do when you're dealing with a very highly intelligent person, a person who's, above most of their counterparts, because a lot of people were saying what she was doing was extra and all of this and all of that, but the sister was really not doing anything wrong. She really was really just talking about her rights, like her rights that she has. And see, my issue that I have with everything is that this whole thing about authority, the psychology of authority. See, you got to understand what type of person pursues a profession around authority. You got to understand what type of personality wants to have authority over other people. Now, the way I feel about it is I don't feel like they have the right to be the authority. And it's like they expect us to just see them as the authority. And I don't just mean just black people, but I mean everybody. It's like, they just had the authority. You just got to accept what they say. Even though they don't know nothing about the law, because you can tell them all day long and they don't know nothing, which is a problem. How can you enforce the law when you don't understand it? You see what I'm saying? And most police officers do not understand it. And they say, well, it's no point in reciting law to a police officer. You don't see a problem with that? It's no problem in you telling the police officer law and they don't understand actual law? Who are they working for then? If you don't know the law and you enforcing the law, tell me in what way does that even make any sense? What are you really enforcing then if you don't know the law? That's really my issue with it. And it's like, well, if you don't accept what I say just because I say it, because that's the issue with authority, just because I say it, then you're wrong and you're going to be penalized. See, now that I do not agree with. That is why I say that they need to overthrow every police station, every form of policing in America and start it over. Because we have to look at what the police started out of. Like, we can't keep avoiding the root of everything. We can't keep avoiding the root that this country started with racism. We can't avoid that there's a law, like actually saying that black people are 3/5 of a human being. We can't avoid these things and act like this shit is non-existent just because we as black people, if I get enough money, I can go buy me a Rolls Royce. That don't mean I'm free. You see what I'm saying? That does not mean I'm free. And we had this mixed up in our head because we really been, in a way, we've been brainwashed to accept things. It's like, well, it's like, no, you just accept that. No, you have to accept that because you are you, like you are you. You are a black person, so you should be okay with that. No, I shouldn't be okay with that. And the mere fact that you expect me to be okay with that is a problem for me. That's why I have a problem with a lot of black people, and I have a problem with a lot of people of other race because, number one, I'm not managing my blackness, like ever. That's why I refuse to go work for anybody because I'm not going to be something that I'm not. I love being who I am, and I'm going to be who I am. So, for me, that's why I would not go work for another person, period. Just point blank, period. Me and my husband, we had to find us a way because that's just how we feel. Like, I love my blackness. Like, I don't want to be anything but that. But it's a lot of people out here just hating being black, man. And it's sad, but I understand because society makes you that way. You know what I'm saying? But we're going to get back into this. Everybody thought that Morpheus was crazy. You know what I'm saying? Because it's the Moor. Morpheus, really, he doesn't need anybody to believe in anything he say or do, though. It's just because he know in himself. He don't need nobody else to believe in it. He don't care. He know how they feel about him, and at the end of the day, he's going to be what he do. He's like, no, I know what I'm here to do. That's how he felt about it. So the real idea behind the Moors is that they are the navigators. You see what I'm saying? But they're the navigators of what? You see, they navigate the universe because they know the universe. See, sovereignty, the only issue I have about this teaching of the sovereignty in the conscious community is we're not teaching real sovereignty. We're not teaching that this is really cosmic law. Like, it really has nothing to do with physical law, man. Like, it really has nothing to do with your true person and your license. It really don't have nothing to do with it, bro. It really is all about your soul is your true self, and this physical shit is just a vessel. That's really all that talk is about. You governing yourself, you being governed by God, and God really is just you. That's really truly all it really is about. It's about governing yourself. And the only way you can govern yourself is if you truly understand your energy. If you don't know who you are and your purpose in walking on this earth, then how are you going to be able to navigate yourself? How can you be able to truly do what it is that you know that you need to do without even being aware of who you are? See, most people right now are still asleep, plugged in. You know what I'm saying? So that's really how it is. And so, Moors, they understand what's coming. They know what'll happen. Like, they're able to understand beyond basic understanding, because the Moor is supposed to free you. Like, the Moor is the one who is spiritually free and operates off of the universal law. Because if you operating off a universal law, you're not going to break no laws of the land, because you're following the laws of nature. So you're not going to, quote unquote, go against what's natural. You're not going to go against nature when you're truly being your sovereign self, when you're truly operating your true person. That's what a lot of people got to understand, because the Moor is moved by something greater than the physical. The Moor knows beyond knowing. So the science of the Moors, I will not demonize that, because that science is ancient. And at the end of the day, we still don't know what happened to her. Like, we still don't know. Like, I don't trust them. I don't believe nothing that they say. I don't believe they handle protocol. We see them do stuff all the time on camera, on video, and they get away with it. We talking about Baltimore. We talking about the same place that Freddie Gray, that he got killed, and the police, everybody walked. Like, we see this. You see what I'm saying? Like, this is in Baltimore. This is in Baltimore. This is where his sister was at, yo. Like, we gotta look at this and understand this, man. Like, I know y'all seen The Wire. Like, they were showing you what's really going on behind the scenes. Nobody really cares about the people. And the people who always get the worst end of the stick is always the people living in the poverty areas. And who mostly lives in the poverty areas? The black people. So when you need to go get a rest, where are you going to go? You're going to go to the poverty areas, because everybody in there is dying to survive. We're not prone to violence. We're just prone to poverty. That's all we're really prone to. We're prone to being poor. We're prone to being hungry. And we really just want to survive. Give me one time in history where you can tell me that black people have just been savages, that we've killed people just to take from them. Give me one time. You cannot tell me one time in history ever. You can't tell me this ever. So this whole connotation that we're prone to violence is complete and utter bullshit. It's really just a brainwashing to get people to keep thinking it's okay, to keep shooting black people because we're violent, but we're not really out here doing anything to nobody. We're not really doing anything to anybody. So what we really need to do as a people, we need to stop watching the news. We need to stop paying attention to this media. We need to stop feeding into this system. We need to stop letting them manipulate and control us. Because even these conscious people, and I know a lot of people probably gonna get mad, but even a lot of these conscious people, you're acting emotionally. You're still responding emotionally because you're upset that some more misled you. And I understand. I really, truly understand. I met all these people. I done met mad people. Me and my husband, we done dealt with mad people. Some people out there do run scams. Some people out there are just trying to get over. But you know why? Because we all are prone to poverty. That's why. If don't nobody want to starve out here, it's really, at the end of the day, that's really, really what it goes back to. Nobody does not want to starve. But I understand, man. I understand. I met mad conscious people who were suspect. It's like, yo, you a con man. I understand because, and it's like this, we got to look at it like this. I'm a type of person where I learn from a lot of people, but I also learn from people's actions. And a lot of people who give us knowledge, who give us useful information, they also show us that they are wicked. They show us that they are wicked with their actions. When somebody shows you who they are, believe them. Believe them. Just know that just because somebody has this knowledge or just because that knowledge made you better, don't mean it made somebody else better. It doesn't mean that somebody else still is not a scam artist. It doesn't mean it. We know preachers that are scam artists, yo. You see what I'm saying? So we can't sit up here and respond emotionally and be like, oh well, what happened should have happened. Shit. That's just what happens when you can't do that just because you mad at some people who gave you some paperwork or because somebody misled you. That's really not right. That's not right, and I disagree with that. I'm not saying that it's not people out here scamming. I'm not saying that people shouldn't be selling this paperwork because I don't think nobody should sell this paperwork no more because obviously it's a target when you're dealing with that. Obviously, we can see that. We see all of these stories on all of these so-called Moors who are trying to do all these things with this paperwork. They're purposely doing that. We got to remember the media is a source of propaganda. The media is a source to get people to have a certain connotation. Like, so now, certain people. So now, when you're walking around, if you got a fez on, so now a person can have a certain perception of you based off of the news story that they've been reading now about these people that wear these fez. So you really just got to pay attention because they're not fighting you. Yeah, they fighting you physically. I'm not going to say they not. But it's more of a spiritual mental war. A lot of this is going on unseen. A lot of this is happening in your head. A lot of this is happening in your mind. So this is an internal war first. So first, within ourselves, we need to become aware of our true selves. How you gonna fight? You don't even know who you are. You sitting here fighting with eight tools. You gotta be more in tune in it. So, but when we go back to the movie, some people, it was a lot of people who believed in Neo, because Neo got a lot of people out of the Matrix. But because we see that with that kid, he was like, he's really, really looks up to Neo. He's like, man, you saved me. Neo's like, no, you saved yourself. That's what somebody who's truly trying to lead is like, no, you save yourself. Because we know if you really, truly, spiritually understand, nobody's ever going to save you. It's not really about nobody else saving you. Like, you got to save yourself first. Like, it's nobody is ever going to do that. And that's where they got us mentally. Mentally, we're looking out mentally. So we're like, where's the black leader? Who are we going to follow? Or it's like, we just got to pray about it. Jesus is going everything is programming us to go out. It's programming you to look out. Because if you stop and you look in at yourself and say, well, what can I do? If 2 million black people right now said, what can I do? What is my part? Versus who are we going to look to? That's a completely different mindset amongst the people. So that's the thing. So, personally, I feel like about Neo, looking at Neo, he's really, really slow. He's a slow learner. He pick up on everything at the last minute. But that's okay. He always gets it. He might not get it when he should get it, but he get it in time, So we see this in this one. He starts to pick up a little bit more. But he is just waking up. He is like a baby to this, so he's just waking up. But we see a lot of emphasis on what everybody believes in this one. Like, belief is a thing in this one, because this one is really about purpose. This one is really talking about spiritual purpose because we're talking about the key maker. But it's they're waiting around to visit the Oracle. So when Neo go to visit the Oracle, right? So he had to fight the Protector because the Protector, he says the only way that I know if you're the one is based on how you fight. And I feel like this was like a chess reference because that's the purpose of chess. Like, chess is saying let's fight, but you fight in strategy. So when you play chess with a person, You're seeing what type of mentality they have, what type of tactics they have for war, what is their strategy. So everything is symbols to be understood for the sake of your mind. If you can understand certain things, you can escape. So we get to Neo seeing the oracle, right? So when Neo sees the oracle, she told him to have a seat, and of course he like, no, I'm gonna stand. But she knew he wanted to sit down, so he sit down. He always trying to fight what she say every time, but she already knows. But the reason why he's skeptical is because he realizes, yo, you're a program, so you're not even really human, but you're a program. So if you're a program, you must come from the machines. You have to come from the machine world. So she could be working for the system as a form of control. So he's like, how do I trust you? So you can really know if you can't really know if she's there to help or not. You just got to make up your own mind to accept it or reject it. That's what she told Neo. You got to make up your mind on if you're going to accept what I tell you, if you're going to reject it. So she asked him, right, she said, do you want some candy? He says, you already know if I'm going to take it. But she says, I wouldn't be much of an oracle if I did. So she already knows his decision, man. And it's like, he already knows too, because she says, you didn't come here to make a choice. You already made it. You came here to know why you made the choice. Why you made the choice. Because it's about coming here to Earth, right? You already decided to come here to do whatever it is you're going to do, but you just don't know why. Because you got to remember why you came here. Because you don't know why you came here now. Because see, when we come here, we born and we go through this society, this reality. We forget who we are. The minute we get here and take that first breath, we forget. It's just, it's a part of the spirituality. We come here and we forget. The breath of life takes away your memory. So we already decided to come here. We knew we was going to come here. You can't blame your mother, your father. You can't blame nobody because you knew everything before you came. You decided to come. You knew what you was going to come here to do, but you just don't know why you came here because every day what we ask ourselves, man, why am I here? What is the point in all this? Why? What is this? That's what we ask ourselves every day, all the time. Why? What is the point in this? But she goes on to say in response to his question, why are you here? He's to say in response to his question, he says, why are you here? Why help us? And she says, we're all here to do what we're all here to do. The oracle says she's all about the future. See, she represents the mother. She's the great mother, the feminine aspect of the universe. That's what she represents. So we have to understand that the mother is hidden. The mother is the darkness. The woman is the darkness. That's why feminine energy is the darkness, because it's your emotions, it's your feelings. It's everything you can't see. You say you're happy. I can't see happiness. Like, oh, that's happy. I can't see that. I can only feel that. I can't see love or physically be like, here, this is love. I can't do that. I can only feel love. See what I'm saying? So the darkness, the knowing, the abyss, she knows what's unsaid. She points to the crows, right? The birds. And she said at some point, a program was written to govern them. A program was written to look over the wind, the trees, the sunrise, the sunset. Programs doing what they supposed to do are invisible. You don't even know that they are there. Let's look at nature. Let's look at seasons. The seasons change naturally. We don't even think of it out of the norm because it's natural. It's the same as, why do the birds migrate when they do? Why do they go where they go? How do they know? Why do trees grow the way they do? Why does the sun rise and sun set when it does? These are programs because it's cycle. It's nature. Therefore it's natural. But it's not seen as a program because it's not taken notice of, because we just know that it's natural. But it's governed by something. It's the natural laws of the universe that governs it. So you got to understand that the universe itself is a machine. It functions mechanically. You can actually predict things using math. So we got to understand that that's the case now. Think about this now. If that's the case, then you really got to understand that all of this is really just a structure. So when we say we living in a matrix, that's what we really are meaning. Because it's like, for example, right? Astrology. Astrology is still a system. It's a box that you still can lock yourself into, like, and be controlled by it. But if you learn it to learn how the system governs you, then you escape control of it. As long as you don't understand something, it's going to control you. Or as long as you don't understand something, you're going to fear it. So if you can come to terms of understanding, then you can, okay, well, I understand that now. So she goes on to say that, yes, other programs, and she goes on to say, whether they're ghosts, angels, vampires, werewolves, aliens, the system is assimilating something that it's not supposed to be doing. So like a program may be facing deletion because it may have broken down, or maybe a better one comes along to replace it, like an upgrade, right? And when it does, the program hides in the matrix, or either it goes back to the source, the path of where one ends. So it's like going back to whence you came. When we die, they say from ashes to ashes, dust to dust. You return back to the earth from whence you came, because in the Bible, God created man with a clay of dirt, right? So, Neo, at this point, Neo, he starts to talk about his dream and the fact that when he goes through the door, he sees Trinity falling, but he never sees her die. And she tells him that he has the sight now and he can see the world without time. So what we got to know is about time. Just like Morpheus said in the first one, time always is going against us. So we always feel like naturally, man, it's not enough time in the day to do everything we want to do. Because, time works against you. That's how it works. So, time, which we think goes in a straight line, really goes in a circle. But he wants to know why he can't see what happens to her. And the oracle says to him, we can never see past a decision we don't understand. We can never see past a decision we don't understand. So when we do things as people and we make decisions and we don't want to accept them decisions, we can't see no further past what we done already done. That's a message. You gotta go ahead, just accept your decisions. Don't let your decisions keep hindering you. You might have made a decision, might not have been a good one. Just accept it and move on. Keep going. You gotta keep going. You gotta remember that. So the oracle, let's see, she says, but Neo, afterwards, he goes on to say, he asks her because he wants to know if he has to choose whether she lives or dies, right? And the oracle says that you've already made that choice. You just want to know why you made it. And she goes on to say, if he doesn't succeed, then Zion is going to fall. Now, remember in the first one, Morpheus said that the oracle only tells you what you need to hear. So here's what we got to understand about the oracle. Neo has already come to the conclusion that she's not human. So if she's not human, she must be a machine. If naturally, in this reality, in this world, humans are against machines, he's wondering, how do I know what you're saying isn't just serving the purpose of the machines? So she's saying, look, you already have done it, already made the decision to do everything that you already said that you're going to do. The only reason why you really here is because you just want to know why you made that choice. But see, you just really don't understand it because he hasn't gotten all the pieces yet. Neo is a little slow. We gotta see that. He's a little slow picking up on everything. I mean, Smith get and understand everything before he does. Which brings us to the next part, because after the oracle leaves, we see Smith. Now, Smith, he ain't got no respect for Neo, because he never called him Neo. He always be like Mr. Anderson, which he takes him back to being Thomas Anderson. So we see that brings up that whole Doubting Thomas thing again. So, but Smith understands that he and Neo are connected. He knows already because he understands that if I'm still here. He said that he knew the rules because Neo destroyed him. Just like the Oracle said, he was supposed to go back to the source, but he didn't. He stayed in the Matrix. So now we're dealing with a corrupt program. Just like the Oracle just said, right? So he said that you remember in the beginning of this one, the agents came in and he noticed they were upgraded, you know. So Agent Smith had been replaced, so he was supposed to be a deleted program. So in doing so, when Neo became an anomaly, so did Agent Smith, because what happens on one end has to happen on the other end. You cannot have no hero without having a bad guy. You can't have no God without no devil. So in order for you to have a God, you gotta create a devil. That's the first thing first. You can't have one without the other. So so Smith said he had to stay. You know, he had to disobey. He said, I could not go back. I felt compelled to stay. He was compelled. When you say compel means to take a course of action without having any sense of control. So what he's saying is that something led him to not go back and brought him back into the Matrix. That thing that really compelled him to stay was Neo. Because once Neo became an anomaly, like I said, so did Agent Smith. So we got to look at what that means. If Agent Smith was supposed to go back to the source, and he's the same as Neo, what does that mean for Neo? So this is what Neo is getting ready to learn and understand. See, Smith, he already get it. He already understand because he's the bad guy. The bad guy already always understands. You always get the truth from the bad guy. Look at every movie now. Something really, really truthful is always revealed by the bad guy. All the time. Always. Why? Because your truth is in the darkness. Dark must come to light. Every time. It's just the same concepts. It's just the same concepts being played over and over and over again. So like I said, in reality, Neo is the exact opposite of the agent. So we dealing with the law of polarity. So he's gonna have to exist as long as Neo exists, which goes on and is further explained in the final one, which is the Matrix Revolutions. But Smith said, I exist because of you when talking to Neo. And because of you, I'm new and I'm free. Right? He says, no, I'm no longer a part of the system. He said, we're not here because we're free. We're here because we're not free. He said, we're here because of purpose. Without purpose, we would not exist. It is purpose that creates, purpose that connects us. Smith understood long before Neo. You know, he understood a long time. He was saying, it feels free because we can do all this, but really, man, we not free. Still, spiritually, you not free because you got a spiritual calling still. You still got a spiritual purpose. You still cosmically selected for whatever you are here to do. And only you are here to do it. Only you can do what you do. Only you can be the one that made your kids. Only you. You the reason why they're here. Only you. You the only reason. So you're not really free. There's not really a free. Because you can't escape your spiritual purpose. You can't escape who you are spiritually. Which goes back to what I was saying about all of these people, man, who we are seeing being killed. These people, that like it's a part of their spiritual purpose. Maybe we supposed to see this so we can wake up. Maybe this is what it takes for black people to wake up. Maybe black people today in 2016 need to see that so that they can wake up. I mean, because at the end of the day, nothing happens by a coincidence. Nothing is happening that's not supposed to happen. And when you really living in that spiritual element like that, then you can truly be at peace. And that's really what this is really about, like getting at peace. Because remember, all of this is about a war. And at the end of the day, the war that's really being fought is internal. It's manifesting external, but it's internal first. So, at that point, so we see Smith, he try and take Neo, right? But Neo ain't gonna let him take him. So, and then we see this endless number of Smiths come, like they endless, right? But, you gotta go on and watch the last one to really see the connection of the two. But Neo is really only fighting himself. Like, it's never gonna end. He's really just fighting his ego. But your ego only exists because of you. It's a part of you. That's what Smith is representing. Smith is representing the damn ego. So Of course, it's gonna be an endless number of Smiths. You ain't gonna never stop fighting that. You gonna fight that until the day you die because it's a part of you existing. It's a part of you being here. It's a part of the purpose. You can't escape it. You're not free. That's the whole point of it. Bottom line, if you stay present fighting the good and evil fight, it's going to go on for all eternity. It is never going to end because that is this system. That is this world. That is this reality. It is based on duality. It's severely, severely flawed. Understand, nobody can be good without bad. You see what I'm saying? Like it's a barometer. The only way that you can say good is by having a way to evaluate what's bad. So Neo now, he has to go and get the key maker. This is what the Oracle told them. You know, look, y'all got to go get the key maker. He's being held by Moravian. How do I say this guy's name? But anyway, right? He's being held by him. So when we look at this guy, he's real interesting. This is when we get to see the ancient systems because we learned that there was once other matrices, right? So we got to get the key maker. So it's Neo, Trinity, and Morpheus, right? Anyway, you know, the guy who's keeping the key maker, he's the keeper of the underworld, so to speak, right? So he's got like this power. Really, he's Hades, right? And it's obvious because his wife's name is Persephone. Like they gave us an obvious way to connect the dots. Like, okay, so he's like Hades because remember, this guy is from another matrix that existed before, right? So it's kind of like this is a different religious system because Neo kind of like the Christ. He got that Christ anointed. He's anointed. He's the anointed one because he's chosen to save the people. Whether he want to do it or not, nigga, you chosen. That's your purpose. That's what you here for. You here to save the people. You the one. So he has to, you know, that's who he is. So with him and Persephone, this is kind of like looking at, you know, once upon a time, we look at the Greek systems, right? So he's kind of like Hades. So he asked them, do you know why you are here? So Morpheus says, we're here for the key maker. But he says, no, that is not why you're here. Okay? That's not why you're here. You were told to come to get the key maker, but you don't know why. You don't even know why. To look for the key maker is to do what? You don't really know why you're here. You're here because somebody told you to come here. You got sent here to do this and you don't even know why. So let's go back, yo. So let's think about it again. You here on earth and you don't even know why. Because like I said, this one is all about understanding your purpose. It is the way of all things. There's only one constant, causality. This is what he calls it, causality, which is the law of cause and effect is what he's talking about. Right? See, the thing about cause and effect, right? If you do something as in an action, there's an effect for every action that must come with it. Some people see that as karma, right? But Morpheus says everything starts with a choice. And he says, no. Choice is an illusion. Remember, choice is an illusion created by those in power for those without it. That's just like this presidential election. They say we got a choice, but we don't really have a choice. We don't really have a choice. It's either this or that. It's not really a choice, though. We can't really choose. We're not really choosing. It's an illusion of choice. We look at the electoral college. It's an illusion of choice. You're going out to vote, and we're looking at this popular vote, but your vote still isn't really the deciding factor. It's the electoral college. So that choice is really an illusion, right? So he gives an example of this by using a woman in his restaurant. And it's really, he uses the woman with, what he does was he give her like a sexual surge, right? And then he explains it in this restaurant by causing her to not be able to control herself just off of this feeling that she gets, you know, because he wrote this little program basically to kind of like give her a sexual orgasm, right? But he was like, it's to a point where it's no longer about the why or the reason. All that matters is the feeling. That what he's talking about is the ego taking control, because it no longer becomes about why It just becomes about feeding that feeling. So that goes back to people that we even see in the conscious community. They may have had a why in the beginning. They may have had a desire initially that came from somewhere within them. But you have to keep that feeling, that ego in check. Because if you get high off of that feeling of being right or being followed, that's your ego just going and not really having a sense of a why. See what I'm saying? But he says that this is the nature of the universe. We struggle against it, we fight to deny it, but beneath our poised appearance, we are completely out of control. We are slaves to causality, and we can only wonder why. The why is what separates us from them. The them he meant, I feel like he meant those plugged in. The why is why you are there. Why does this power even exist? So that why separates us. Why? See, why? That's what's separating us. The reason why some people doing what they doing. What's really the cause behind your actions. And now we don't understand a lot of these things are not even rooted in us. They're coming from outside influences. That's what he was doing. He gave an outside influence to give this woman a response that she could not control. And what did he do? He went and took advantage of that. He went and utilized her response to get his own pleasure out of it. So, they need the key. That's why they go to see him. You got to go to Hades. You got to go to the underworld to get the key maker because you need the key. Why is the key in the underworld? Why is the key with him? Why is that? So, they're thinking like, nothing is going to happen, but we see Persephone help them, just like Persephone in, when we're dealing with Greek mythology. She never wanted to be in the underworld, so we see Persephone help them. It's nothing ever like a woman scorned, ever. Nothing like a woman scorned. So we got to remember Persephone being the queen of Hades, she was there by force. She says long ago that Meridian, he was like Neo, but now he is who he is. So that means at one point, he might have been the one as well. But maybe he made different decisions because we don't remember yet, but we're going to see that the one always have to make a specific choice. But you remember, now he's saying your choice is illusion. Choice is an illusion. Because really, it's about getting the same outcome, but just giving you the illusion of a choice. Because the architect said that as long as the people felt like they had a choice, they would accept the programming. Because this is a duality reality, yo. Like, this reality is based on duality. So you gotta feel like you got a choice. Why? Because you got two hemispheres in your brain. You got the left brain and the right brain. You got the logical mind and you got the spiritual mind, the creative mind. Those two got to work together. But a lot of times in society, they don't. So it's just about having a different way of perceiving it. But, she asked Neo for a kiss. See, this is where they are really telling us the difference in Neo. The difference with Neo is he loves Trinity. He has love. That's really, really the difference. And that's really why this green, to me, is the theme of the movie. Some people feel like it has to do with the currency and all of that, but I really think it has to do with the green chakra. The green chakra does include money. I think it goes back to love. But she asked Neo for a kiss because she wanted to feel the love that Neo had for Trinity. Right? But, when they get the key maker, he says, I've been waiting for you. So, before they, fight the people and everything, when he sends them out after them, when they get the key maker, He says, your predecessors, this is what he said to Neo, your predecessors had much more respect. There has always been saviors, heroes, and more. So he tells them, like, you ain't the first one. You ain't the only one. You think you are, but you're not. Like, those that came before you had a lot more respect than you did. So who came before Christ, right? Krishna, Dionysus, Heru. Man, it's a ton of people. It's 16 other crucified saviors other than Jesus Christ. Most people do not know that, though. And that's the whole sense of what he's saying. Like, it's always been saviors. It's nothing new. So now we meet these twins, right? The twins are the ghosts. They translucent. They don't have no color. They lack color. They lack emotion. They be mocking Neo all the time. And they're like, they represent kind of like, I call them the Gemini twins. They're representing air signs, communication, representing intelligence, because they mock the people. You got to remember, intelligence, air is objective. It doesn't involve emotions. It's up here, man. It don't have nothing to do with that down there. It's not being held down by the water element of emotion. So they represent intelligence. They're both hemispheres of the brain. Their corrupted programs probably got exiled or whatever, and he took them in when they didn't want to go back to the source. But like they say in there, they say we are getting aggravated because they one brain. They one mind. They just the left side and the right side. But if you look at it, so like I said, old matrices, it's kind of like old systems. It's like ancient systems, whether you want to talk about the Sumerians, whether you want to talk about the ancient Egyptians, whether you want to talk about the Greeks or the Romans, it's different systems dealing with different times. So the Keymaker always say that we are here to do what we are here to do. That's what he always says. That's the thing. We are here to do what we are here to do. And he explains what it is that must be done. He says that we must know because it's his purpose to know. We do only what we're meant to do. These doors all lead to different places, hidden places, but one door is special because it leads to the source. So this goes back to us. There's many different routes and everything that we can take, but it's only one door to go back to the source. So even though there's different religions or whatever the case may be, it's going to take you back to just one source. It's only one source. See, the illusion is in thinking that only one God or only your God is the only way. But really, it's only really one source to get back to. Whatever path you choose to take to get back to that is really just your choice. So before going through the door, Morpheus, the Keymaker, and Neo, they run into Smith. So Neo, again, he is so lost again. Like, man, what you doing here? But Smith says, you still using all your muscle except the one that matters because you ain't using your brain. So Smith says, I've been expecting you and you surprised to see me. So now notice, as soon as the Keymaker opened that door, he died. The minute he opened the door, he dead. He shot. Because he don't fulfill his purpose. That's what it means. That's why he dies. Because he did what he was destined to do, what he was meant to do. He was there in an existence to make the key just for the one to come in so he can open the door for him. That's it. That was his whole purpose. He went through all that just for that. That was his purpose in that matrix. So, so this is when we see Neo to go on and see the architect, right? So when we see the architect, you take notice when you see all those screens, right? We saw that in the very first one. In the very first one, when Neo, when he's first captured by the agents and we see this zone in on his screen, like it's the same because now we see like hundreds of screens sitting up here, right? Now, a lot of people felt like the architect is really confusing, but it's the most critical part of it because he tells everything. He's like, look, there were other matrices. They failed. He's like the father of the matrix and the oracle is the mother. So if he's the father and he's the mother, at the end of the day, she told him, I'm about the future. So if they're both machines, they both are about the future. And she's also in the same sense trying to help the humans get to the future. Then see the architect, right? And he starts to talk and he says that the first Matrix failed because it was like a utopia. And the people naturally rejected the programming. So what does this mean? Humans cannot, I'm not going to say cannot, but it's almost impossible to live without um, conflict. And that goes back to understanding this base reality and why in the first one, the first Matrix Decoded video, I told you that this existence, this reality, this physical realm is the real hell, is because there is no utopia here. It's because there must be duality here. It failed because the people couldn't accept just living in a world where there was no anything, just a virtual paradise. They couldn't accept it. They only could accept it when they felt like they had a choice to choose between something. You see what I'm saying? So the matrix that was able to survive wasn't the utopia. It was like this dirty, violent, war-infested 1999 version of the reality. That was the one that survived. That's the one that people took. Like 99% of the people accepted this simulation. And what we find out in this one is that Zion is where it is on purpose. Like, they think they free, but they not really free. It's just a place for all the people who rejected the programming to go. So it's still a part of the matrix. That's the part. That's the thing to understand. So is it a matrix within a matrix? And really understand that none of it really truly matters then. You get what I mean? Like, Neo, at this point, now he really, really gets it. But he's not very, very expressive about it. It's like a lot of it, he's still trying to figure out. He has to experience a lot of these things physically before he can really, really, truly, truly understand. You get what I mean? So, so the difference in this one, of course, is Neo's choice that he's facing is, does Trinity die or do you save Zion? Now we gotta remember that choice is an illusion, because no matter what he chooses, really, at the end of the day, it's gonna be what it's gonna be no matter what he chooses. Now, see, what he has learned is that the one before him, because I believe there were 6 matrices before him, what happens is every time there comes the same thing. There's this war, it intensifies, they locate the one, he gets trained, he gets directed by the prophecy, okay, to the source. Everybody's playing a role. So the roles in this is the oracle is supposed to direct the one with the prophecy so they can go back to the source so that it can be started all over again. That's why it's called Matrix Reloaded. So it's like it never really ends and you never really saving anybody, because again, everybody's gonna die and he just gotta pick 23 people from the Matrix and just start rebuilding Zion again. And it's like that cycle starts all over again. And this is the 6th time that it's happened. This is the 6th time. He's the 6th one. 6. Now we gotta remember 6, right? What's 6? 6 is the number of responsibility. 6 is the number of the mother. Nobody's more responsible than the mother. Because if you look at a 6 though, the 6, it curls up like, if you look at it like a back with a pregnant woman. So that's the 6. So it's emotions, it's acceptance, it's vision. But you can't have vision without acceptance. And what you got to understand about acceptance and the number 6, right? 6, if we look at the devil, we know the devil to be the number 666. But we don't understand where none of these numbers come from. We don't understand frequency or what numbers represent, because in Kabbalah, Christ is tied to the number 6 too. But when we look at the number 6 and we're looking at the devil and we say 666, right? We understand that the devil is the goat, right? If we pay attention to the imagery, we've always noticed that the devil has taken on the characteristics, when it's being physically drawn or whatever, takes on the characteristics of the goat. So why the goat? Because the goat is symbolic. The goat is symbolic to the planet Saturn. just like Capricorn. Capricorn is the goat, right? It's ruled by Saturn. Saturn is real similar to Satan, right? So we got Saturn, we got Satan. Saturn really is the Lord of the rings, the planet with the rings, the big rings, right? Saturn is the planet of authority. So we got the GOAT. It's funny because we say GOAT. We call people the GOAT, right? Michael Jordan's the GOAT, right? He's the greatest of all time. He's physically the greatest. He's the GOAT. We call him the best because Saturn has dominion over the physical earth. That's why they say the devil rules over earth. But it's symbology. It's not about good or bad. It's not really about that. So with the number 6, with it being connected to vision, if you can't accept your emotions, your feelings, who you are inside, your responsibility to yourself, to your purpose, when you can't accept that, then you have false vision. You deal with illusions, because we have to remember that the devil is a liar, right? We got to remember that the devil is, when we look in tarot, right? The imagery of the devil card shows the man and the woman being chained. They're chained down with the devil having dominion or rule over them. But if we look carefully, you see that the chains holding them don't really hold them. They're too big. Really, they can leave at any point in time, but they're choosing to be held down by something physical, which is, it's like understanding that. That's why it's vision, because it's about perception. You're perceiving your restriction, and you're receiving something as a restriction, something to hinder you. That's your devil. There's nothing ever hindering you. You just must change your perception. You must change your vision so that you can see out of that illusion, because you'll never see a solution within an illusion. There's never a solution because an illusion is not real. So that is something that we got to understand about this number 6, right? So Neo is the 6th one, yo. He's the 6th one. So just like the movie tells us that Matrix Reloaded, now we're seeing how the Matrix gets reloaded. Like it really gets reloaded. It just starts over like a cycle, until the architect can achieve 100% acceptance of the matrix, right? So he has to eliminate the one, the need for the one. See, it's 99%. So you got 1% that ain't accepting it. That's what Neo represents, that 1%. So this cycle got to be played out as described, or this system is going to become unstable and it's going to crash. Now we see where the choice is that Neo has to make. And that choice is, does Trinity live, or does he save Trinity, or does he save Zion? So it's kind of like the architect is like, regardless of what you choose, if you choose her, then everybody is gonna die, like, and be done. He said there are certain levels of existence that we are willing to accept without humans. So he's really trying to say to Neo, the only choice you really have is to go and do the way we want you to do. And that is to choose the people from the Matrix that you want to take out, the 23 people, and it starts all over again. But what Neo does instead, he chooses Trinity because he loves her. See, this is the whole point of this, is really about love. Because and that's what the Matrix really is. It's really a love story, because he defied everything because he followed his heart, and his heart was Trinity. Even though Trinity did what she did, in a situation he told her not to go in, but a situation presented itself that she couldn't avoid not going in. So everything happened as it needed to happen. The fact that he saw Trinity falling was him already knowing his choice was that he wasn't going to let her die. So he already saw his decision, but he just didn't know why he was seeing her dying. Well, she didn't die, but he saw her falling. And that's because he saved her. So when he saved her, she didn't die. Well, he brought her back or whatever the case. She didn't die. But that was the decision that he made. He didn't understand why that was a decision, but it was because he chose her instead of doing what the architect said and going through the door to go back to the source. He didn't do that. Instead, he chose her. And that was a decision that he couldn't understand because nobody had ever done that before. This is the one difference between him and all the other ones. He's in love, so it's different. So now we see, right? Now the thing that makes this interesting is because at the exact same time that Neo makes this decision, well, it wasn't the exact same time, but at the same time, we see Smith cross over into the real world. Now remember, Zion is not really a real world. Think about it. We think about it like this. Still, the machine world, the architect, they still built Zion. So in reality, if they built it and had everything to do with it, it's still a part of that whole system. It might look separate, but it's still a part of it. See, it's the same thing with what's going on for real in real life. Like, it don't look the same, but it's still a part of it. It's still the same system. It's still all a part of the big picture. It's still playing out a role. So when we really look at it that way, when Smith goes into the real world, then we see something happen that has never happened before. So he has crossed over and he actually is existing in Zion because he done hijacked somebody's vessel. So he has, basically kind of like, implanted himself. He's taking over somebody else. So he's Bane now. But Bane is no more. It's Smith, right? So what Neo really realizes and everything he learned from the architect is that there isn't really a prophecy. This is really just a manipulation. Like, this isn't true. The one is not meant to free mankind. All the one really does is just reload the matrix, just restart the matrix back over. It's really just to continue to keep the humans in servitude to the machines. So of course, it's this is not a path. Him choosing to go to Trinity has never been done before. There was never a reason for the one to choose to not go back to the source once learning the truth. You see what I'm saying? Because they were detached. But Neo, he's not. No, he loves Trinity. You see, like he loves her. It's different. That's a whole different scenario. So instead of it ending with him going back to the one and everything, going back how it was, making the end the beginning, because remember, it's a cycle. It doesn't happen that way. So now what are we seeing? Has to be cause and effect always. Remember, there's always cause and effect. So with Smith going into the real world, what's going to happen now? Because we do know that Smith and Neo are connected. So does Neo become Neo in the real world? Because we see him stop the Sentinels. Now, what in him allows him to know that he can do it? Because you see what I'm saying? Because he's in the real, remember, he's in the real world. He's not supposed to be able to have powers in the real world, right? But Smith is not supposed to exist in the real world. So are we just dealing with looking at this now, this real world over here now as understanding that this is a matrix? Because now Neo has the ability to stop the Sentinels with his mind now. Okay, this is different. But at the end of the day, after it, then we see, after the encounter he has with the machines and he stop them, and at the end we see what Smith and Neo. We see both of them and it says to be continued, and that's how it ends. Because now, now it really does come back to just these two now, because Neo didn't go back to the source either. You see what I'm saying? So Smith didn't go back to the source. Neo didn't go back to the source. So now what happens? So nothing has ever happened the way it has happened before. But then we go on to see more into, Matrix Revolutions, and it all gets back into it being about you and who you are. But this is basically all about understanding purpose and understanding too that you still have the power of free will, because he still did what was in his heart. That lets you know about love. Now, see, they really get into this in the next one, because remember now, Neo, he, after doing this, he gets caught somewhere in the middle between the Matrix world and the real world. So he's caught in the middle, and we see where love comes in and why everything happens how it does. Because although it's not the way the architect structured it to be, it still happens the way it's supposed to happen. So, we'll explore that in the next one. But that pretty much is it. So that really kind of concludes the Matrix Reloaded, the Part 2 Decoded, coming from me. So that pretty much wraps that up. I guess I will see y'all in the Part 3. And if you have any comments or whatever, drop it in the comments box or wherever you at. If you're watching it on YouTube, if you're on Facebook, whatever, wherever you at, drop a comment below. If you're on the blog, subscribe. If you're on the YouTube channel, subscribe. Peace.